y'all. Get your pussyfootin', lollygagging, fiddle fartin', meek magoo distracted asses in hyperfocus. Now, let's go conquer some goals. Let me pull this microphone over here. Get this microphone set up like a boss. Ah! Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the subconscious mind and how it affects our ability to perform affirmations and how to suck less at them. We're going to do some tips and tricks on how to be better at affirmations. Last year, in early 2023, Paul and I went to a wealth building seminar at a friend's house locally. We weren't friends at the time, but over time we did make friends with the host. But she had a speaker come up that was fascinating to me. This woman's name was Pam Greenberg, and she was a hypnotherapist. And she brings up this picture that is all about the mind and how it's structured and how it functions. She told us that as we're young, from ages 0 to about 6 or 7, we start developing the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is where we get those initial fight or flight responses. Maybe something occurs that gives us a positive emotion, so we associate love with that thing. We're not really questioning what's happening. We just have an emotion, we have a response, and our automatic behaviors develop from an association with whatever that thing is. It could be fear, it could be love, it could be doubt, it could be insecurity. All of those things are built up within our subconscious mind as children. But then as we start to age a little bit, let's say ages 7 to 9, we develop the critical mind. And that's when we start to question things. So instead of just taking everything at face value, which we do as a child because we don't really know how to analyze these things, as we get older, we do. Things start to happen and we say, how do I feel about that? Is that actually true? And you start to question the incoming emotions that are occurring or the incoming environments or situations. And you develop this almost like a barrier between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is where you have all of your decisions, your logic, your reasoning, your willpower. That's all held within your conscious mind. So let's say something occurs externally and it comes in and it hits your critical mind, that barrier, and then it pulls from your subconscious. And your subconscious will say, I don't like that thing, or, ooh, I love that thing. And then you will make a decision with your conscious mind based on your subconscious. Research states that the subconscious makes up about 88% of our thought power, whereas the conscious mind only makes up about 12%. So our decisions and our behaviors are typically more influenced by our subconscious than our conscious mind. Perfect example. As a child, I went to the beach with family once, and it was a wonderful time. They handed me some bread, and they were like, you can go feed the birds with this. I started to pull out that bread, and I started to throw it to the seagulls. And there was one, and it was adorable. And I was like, oh, look, there's a bird. And then another one came, and I was like, oh, there's another bird. And then like another 5, and then another 10. And then there were like 100 birds around me. And then I was like, birds. And then I started to run away because there were way too many birds for me. And because of that experience as a child, I started to, in my subconscious, dislike birds. So when I got older, let's say I'm walking through a park and I see two paths. One path has maybe like 10 pigeons. Another path, I was going to say a crocodile, but maybe let's not go that far. Let's say there are like 20 children. One has 20 children, and the other one has 10 pigeons. Well, maybe the children are like running around and acting like fools, and normal people would be like, I ain't going down there. Or maybe they really enjoy kids, and they will. Me, I'm definitely going through the 20 wild kids, because the 10 pigeons is a no for me. I'm not going through the pigeons. They might fly above my head, they might poop on me. You know that birds poop every 15 minutes? I went to the aquarium in Charleston once, and there was a sign in the bird atrium, I guess what you call it. And there was a sign that said, just fun fact, birds poop every 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, that's lovely. So now I'm afraid birds are going to poop on my head. But I would choose the path with the children, because the birds, a little too much for me. My subconscious mind is like, Harris, don't go there. The birds might poop on you. The birds might attack you. And then, Alfred Hitchcock and all that craziness. They might poke your eyeballs out or something. So my subconscious is making associations with the birds. And then my conscious mind makes a decision to go the opposite direction. So, what the heck does this have to do with hypnotherapy? Well, as Pam started to talk about this, she was basically saying that you can alter your subconscious mind and reassociate things in your subconscious by being a little bit more suggestible. And that's what hypnotherapy is. You put someone in a very suggestible state by hypnotizing them. And in that state, you might be able to reassociate their bird their bird emotion with something else. Maybe instead of associating birds with pain and discomfort and fear, I might associate it with love and admiration and wonder and whimsy. Little did I know that I was going to win a free hypnotherapy session with Pam at this wealth building seminar. And I was really excited about it. I almost felt like I manifested it in a way. They were like, somebody's going to win a free hypnotherapy session. And I was like, it's me. It's me. It's me. And it was. So I won my session and I went to it. And I was curious as to what was going to happen. Like, is she going to lay me back? Am I actually going to be hypnotized? What is hypnotized? Am I going to quack like a duck? Am I going to dance? I didn't know what to expect. And she sat me down and she started talking to me about some of the issues I was having, my background, as any normal first therapy session would be. And then she said, all right, it sounds to me like you need to work on your self-esteem. And it sounds like this is where a lot of your core issues are coming from. And she was right. So she sat me back and she started to test my suggestibility. Put your hands out like this and imagine one of your hands has a bowling ball in it, maybe your left hand. Or if it has a bowling ball in it, you might start to lower your hand. And let's say this one on the right side has balloons tied to it. So you might start to lift your hand. And they say that if your hands move really far apart, you might be more suggestible than other people who might keep their hands around the same spot or not move them at all. But the one benefit about being suggestible is that you can start to reframe your associations in your subconscious mind for more positive things, for things that you want to be in your subconscious. Maybe you have an association of cigarettes with stress relieving and you want to quit smoking. Well, hypnotherapy could potentially help you with that if you go and do the work you have to do the work. You can't just go to hypnotherapy and miraculously things change. It's like taking your dog to a dog trainer for 3 seconds and expecting something to be different. That's not how it works. But if you do the work, then you can reframe your subconscious to have a different association. Cigarettes was actually a great example that she used. She said, what if you're a child and your mother comes home incredibly stressed out from a long day at work, and she's very angry, and she might be doing dishes very rough and throwing them around, and she's huffing and puffing, and she's just upset. She's had a bad day. And then she goes outside and she smokes a cigarette, and then she comes back very calm and loving and nurturing. You might associate cigarettes as a child with stress relief. And so as you get older, maybe you are more inclined to smoke because of that. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but that's the example that she gave. So your association of stress relieving with cigarettes could be something that is disassociated during hypnotherapy and in a suggestible state. So in this session, she sat me down and she put me in a hypnotized state. Now, I will say that I was very aware of my surroundings. I was not asleep. I was not zonked out. I knew what was happening. I could hear her, but I was really trying to relax and take it all in. And she was repeating certain affirmations to me for self esteem. One of the things she said was, you are so confident in yourself that others have no choice but to believe the words you say. And that struck me really hard. The more confident I am, people have no choice but to believe that I am an expert, that I am amazing, because if I believe that, then they will also believe that. So we worked on affirmations during the hypnotherapy session, and she sent me home with homework. She said, I want you to work on affirmations. Can you tell me some of the things that you want to be in your life? What are you striving toward? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I want to be strong. I want to be confident. I want to be fulfilled. I want to be decisive. I want to be positive. I want to be powerful. And she was like, okay, those are the affirmations that you need to work on. I want you to do them in the evening before you go to sleep and in the morning when you wake up. And as I started to practice these affirmations, I also started to do a lot of research. And I'd love to share with you some of the things that I learned, because it really helped me a lot when I was doing these affirmations. I think people hear about affirmations all the time. It's like, do your affirmations, but nobody really goes into the science of doing affirmations. What the heck is an affirmation? How are you supposed to do them? Is there a certain way? Do you just practice different things until you find what works for you? And yeah, you could do that, but I've done some of the work, so I'm going to share that with you. So, here are 4 things that helped me in my path of performing affirmations, and hopefully it will help you. Number 1, and this is what Pam told me to do when I was at her office. She said, when you do your affirmations, I want you to do them every night and every morning. And when you do them, I want you to breathe in and state all of the things that you want to become. So it's like you're inhaling those things, you are accepting them and bringing them into your life, welcoming them. So I might say, I want to be strong and powerful and decisive as I'm breathing in. And then as you exhale, it's like you're letting go of all the things that you aren't happy with, that you're disappointed in, the negative thoughts. So breathe in the positive, breathe out the negative. Number 2 was to process the affirmations with your senses. We learned this as a trick from somebody that we recently met at a party. She's a marriage counselor, and she talked about processing affirmations with your senses. So you have five senses, and one of the easiest way to process a thought or an emotion or a belief is through hearing it. They often will tell you to look at yourself in the mirror as you're saying your affirmation, and that's because you're processing it with your eyes. You're visualizing it. You're seeing yourself tell yourself that you are amazing, you're incredible, whatever your affirmation is. You're a great sister. You are a kick ass boss. Whatever it is that you are affirming, you are seeing yourself say that. Another way that you can practice this, if you have a partner, family member, roommate at your house, when you go to sleep at night or when you wake up in the morning, you can have somebody else say your affirmations to you. I practice this with Paul, and I would tell him my affirmation, and he would repeat it back to me. And then I would be processing it through my hearing sense, and it would help instill that affirmation in me. The third is score your affirmations. When you are stating an affirmation that you really don't believe, you start to see some and experience some cognitive dissonance. Your brain is like, I don't believe this thing, and it's making me feel bad. And because you don't believe it, the affirmations really aren't working for you. There have been studies, and I'll link to them in the show notes, that doing positive affirmations for somebody that has negative beliefs surrounding that topic actually makes them feel worse than if they didn't say that thing at all. If they have low self esteem and they say something negative about themselves, it makes them feel better. So you have to avoid that cognitive dissonance and do an affirmation that you actually believe or somewhat believe. It's approachable, it's achievable, it's not completely out of range for you. One suggestion to accomplish this would be to write down 10, 20 affirmations and then go through that list of affirmations and score them on a scale from 0 to 100. 0 would be, I don't believe this at all. And 100 would be, I believe this 100%. If it's 100, well, clearly you don't need that to be an affirmation because you already believe it. So that's silly. You got that, girl. Whatever that affirmation is at 100, you got it. So don't worry about that one. If they're under 50, that means you really don't believe them. So if they're under 50, you just need to discard it or you need to rewrite it so that it's more believable. So maybe between that 50 and 90 range or somewhere in there, those are the ones that you want to practice. Those are the ones that you won't have cognitive dissonance with because your brain actually partially believes what you're saying. And remember to focus on your values. You're supposed to write your affirmations in the areas that you value. If you don't value it, don't make it an affirmation. And the last tip, number 4, don't be too hard on yourself about it. The beautiful thing about affirmations is that it's practicing positive self talk. And the more you say positive things to yourself, the more you build this identity habit. For those of you who have read Atomic Habits by James Clear, you know in that book he talks about eventually once you do a habit enough times, it becomes who you are. It becomes your identity. So if I say over and over and over again, I am decisive, I am decisive, I am decisive, eventually I will build this habit of saying that to myself, and my brain will start to believe it because it's who I am at that point. So, if nothing else, practicing positive self talk is a good habit to instill, and maybe it will become part of your identity. I'll leave you with one more thought, which is that we think thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts per day. And there are two levers in life, as Tom Bilyeu said in a recent speech I saw. There's a pleasure lever and there's a pain lever. Why focus on the pain when you can focus on the pleasure? So work on these positive affirmations and focus on that pleasure lever. And let me know how it works out for you. I would love to hear more about how you put this into action and if it worked for you. Quick takeaways. Number one, your subconscious mind makes up about 88% of your behavior patterns. So try to be a little bit more open to new ideas, new associations with positive things rather than negative ones. In order to master your affirmations, breathe in the good and breathe out the bad. Process with your senses, whether that's eyesight or hearing, your affirmations as they're said to you. Score them 0 to 100. If it's 100, you're good to go. If it's under 50, probably don't believe those. Maybe skip or rewrite those affirmations. Keep practicing. Building an identity habit is what's important here. You are practicing positive self-talk, and that in itself is admirable. And lastly, birds are freaking scary. See y'all next time. What? Thank you for watching. If anything in this episode resonated with you, I would love to know. Drop me a comment or subscribe over at hyperfocus.com. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hyperfocus, y'all.